In the small, secluded town of Ravenswood, nestled deep within the dense woods, stood an old Victorian house that had long been abandoned. The locals whispered stories of its dark past, claiming that it was haunted by the spirits of those who had met a gruesome end within its walls. Few dared to approach, and even fewer had the courage to step inside. On a cold, moonless night, Emily, a young woman with an adventurous spirit, found herself alone at home. Her parents had left for a weekend trip, leaving her in charge of the family house. The wind howled outside, causing the ancient trees to creak and moan in eerie harmony. Emily, however, dismissed the ominous atmosphere, convincing herself that the stories surrounding the abandoned house were nothing more than the product of overactive imaginations. As the night wore on, Emily decided to explore the old Victorian mansion out of sheer curiosity. Armed with only a flashlight and a sense of bravado, she made her way through the dense woods toward the imposing structure. The path leading to the house was overgrown with twisted vines and gnarled branches, creating an otherworldly gateway to the mysterious dwelling. Upon entering, Emily felt an immediate chill in the air, and the unsettling silence enveloped her. The light from her flashlight danced along the decaying wallpaper as she cautiously moved from room to room. Dust-covered furniture draped in white sheets stood like ghostly figures frozen in time. The air was thick with an unspoken dread, and Emily couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. In the dim light, Emily thought she saw fleeting shadows and heard faint whispers echoing through the corridors. The creaking floorboards beneath her seemed to carry the weight of long-forgotten secrets. Despite the rising unease, she pressed on, determined to unravel the mystery that shrouded the mansion. As she ascended a grand staircase, the temperature dropped further, and Emily's breath formed ghostly clouds in the frigid air. The oppressive silence was broken only by the distant sound of wind rustling through the trees outside. The door to the master bedroom stood ajar, and with a hesitant push, Emily entered. The room was frozen in time, adorned with antique furniture and faded wallpaper. A heavy canopy bed dominated the center, draped in tattered curtains that swayed with an invisible breeze. In the dim light, Emily noticed a dusty photograph on the nightstand. It depicted a family from a bygone era, their eyes hauntingly staring back at her. Suddenly, a shiver ran down Emily's spine as an unearthly whisper filled the room. "Get out!" it hissed, a spectral voice carried by the air. Panic gripped her heart, and she stumbled backward, desperate to escape the oppressive atmosphere. But as she turned to flee, the door slammed shut with a force that echoed through the mansion. Trapped in the haunted bedroom, Emily's flashlight flickered, casting long, distorted shadows on the walls. The temperature plummeted, and her breath became visible in the icy air. The room seemed to come alive with a malevolent energy as the whispers grew louder, swirling around her like a sinister chorus. In the shadows, indistinct figures materialized, their forms shifting between reality and the ethereal. Emily could feel their gaze upon her, and a paralyzing fear gripped her soul. The walls seemed to close in, and the once ornate furnishings twisted into grotesque shapes. As Emily gasped for breath, a ghastly figure emerged from the darkness, a specter cloaked in tattered garments, its face obscured by shadows. It reached out with bony fingers, and a bone-chilling voice echoed in her mind. "You shouldn't have come." Terrified, Emily closed her eyes, hoping it was all a nightmare. But when she opened them again, the room had transformed into a macabre dance of shadows and whispers. The spirits of the past enveloped her, their grievances echoing through the haunted halls. In that malevolent moment, Emily realized she had unwittingly trespassed into a realm beyond the living. The abandoned mansion, a repository of forgotten sorrows, had awakened, and she was now entwined in its spectral grip. The whispers grew louder, the shadows more ominous, as Emily became one with the haunted legacy of Ravenswood. A chilling tale whispered by the town's restless spirits for generations to come. The night hung heavy with an unsettling stillness as Rachel found herself alone at home. Her parents had left for a late-night event, leaving her to spend the evening in their quiet suburban house. An unusual unease settled upon her shoulders, amplified by the dim glow of the streetlights outside that cast long, ominous shadows through the windows. As the clock ticked away, Rachel tried to immerse herself in the solace of her room. The soft hum of the air conditioner and the occasional creak of the house settling into the night surrounded her. She decided to distract herself with a movie, hoping the flickering light from the screen would dispel the encroaching darkness. In the middle of the film, an unexpected power outage plunged the house into an inky blackness. The sudden darkness swallowed the comforting hum of electronics, and Rachel's heart skipped a beat. Silence wrapped around her like a suffocating shroud. She fumbled for her phone, using its feeble glow to navigate through the oppressive black. As Rachel stumbled through the hallway, a chill raced down her spine. She heard faint whispers that seemed to emerge from the walls themselves. The air grew thick with an inexplicable tension, and the house seemed to exhale its own quiet horrors. She dismissed the unsettling sounds, convincing herself that it was just her imagination playing tricks in the dark. In the kitchen, Rachel hesitated before lighting a candle. The flickering flame cast dancing shadows that stretched and contorted on the walls, creating an eerie ballet of darkness. She scanned the silent rooms, her senses heightened by the uncertainty that gripped the house. The creaking floorboards echoed through the stillness, and Rachel felt a presence, an unseen watcher in the shadows. A fleeting glimpse of movement caught her eye, but when she turned, there was nothing there. She took a deep breath, attempting to quell the rising anxiety that threatened to overwhelm her. Determined to dispel the growing fear, Rachel returned to her room, hoping the familiar surroundings would provide solace. The glow of the candle flickered as she closed the door, creating a play of light and shadow on the walls. Her phone buzzed with a notification, and she eagerly reached for it, seeking a connection to the outside world. The message displayed a single word: alone. A shiver ran down Rachel's spine as she scanned the message, her mind racing with the possibilities. She dismissed it as a prank, perhaps a friend trying to spook her on this eerie night. Yet the feeling of being watched persisted, intensifying with every passing second. Desperation clawed at Rachel as she clutched her phone, contemplating whether to call her parents or a friend for reassurance. Just as she dialed the number, a distorted voice whispered through the darkness, sending a surge of terror coursing through her veins. "You're not alone." The words hung in the air, a sinister promise that froze Rachel in place. She strained her ears, but the oppressive silence had returned, as if the house itself held its breath. Trembling, she pressed the phone to her ear, but only static greeted her. A sudden chill enveloped the room, and Rachel's breath caught in her throat. Shadows danced on the walls, taking on shapes that seemed to writhe and contort in the dim candlelight. The room felt charged with an otherworldly energy, and Rachel's instinct screamed at her to escape. She flung the door open, only to find the hallway shrouded in an impenetrable darkness. The candle flickered violently, casting grotesque shadows that seemed to reach out for her. Panic seized Rachel as she stumbled through the abyss, the walls closing in around her. In the depths of the darkness, whispers converged into a haunting symphony, each word a spectral breath against her skin. "Alone. Forever," the voice echoed, growing louder with every step she took. Rachel's heart pounded in her chest, her surroundings warping into a nightmarish labyrinth. As she navigated the shadowy corridors, Rachel glimpsed fleeting apparitions, whispers of the past that lingered in the haunted spaces of the house. Faces distorted by pain and sorrow stared at her, their silent pleas echoing through the suffocating darkness. Finally, Rachel burst into the feeble glow of the streetlights outside, gasping for air. The oppressive weight that had clung to her dissipated in the cool night breeze. She stumbled away from the house, its windows now like vacant eyes watching her escape. Rachel never returned to that house, leaving its dark secrets to fester in the silence. The whispers lingered, a haunting reminder that, in the stillness of the night, the line between the living and the dead could blur, and the shadows could harbor unseen terrors that whispered of eternal solitude. The night was draped in an oppressive darkness as Mia found herself alone at home. Her parents had left for a weekend getaway, leaving her to navigate the creaking halls of their old Victorian house. An unsettling quiet settled over the place, broken only by the distant howl of the wind outside. Mia attempted to shake off the eerie feeling that crept over her as she settled in the living room. The antique clock on the wall ticked away like a spectral heartbeat, each sound resonating through the empty house. Determined to distract herself, she turned on the TV, its flickering glow casting long, distorted shadows on the walls. As the night deepened, Mia became aware of an odd sensation, a subtle shift in the air that left her skin prickling with unease. She attributed it to her imagination, dismissing the growing discomfort as the byproduct of being alone in the old house. However, a whisper of doubt lingered at the edge of her consciousness. In an attempt to regain control, Mia decided to immerse herself in a book, hoping the written words would provide a sanctuary from the palpable silence. The soft rustling of the pages was the only sound in the house, and she found solace in the fictional world she had escaped to. But as the clock struck midnight, the words on the pages seemed to morph into a haunting chant, a dissonant melody that resonated with the shadows in the corners of the room. An inexplicable chill filled the air, and Mia's breath caught in her throat. The room darkened as if a cloud had passed over the moon, plunging the house into a profound blackness. She fumbled for her phone, its feeble light offering a meager source of comfort. That's when she heard it, the unmistakable sound of footsteps, slow and deliberate, echoing through the vacant halls. Fear clawed at Mia's chest as she strained to listen. The footsteps seemed to draw closer, a phantom presence treading through the darkness. She whispered her parents' names into the stillness, a feeble attempt to convince herself that it was simply her imagination. No response, but the oppressive silence met her pleas. Summoning every ounce of courage, Mia decided to investigate. Clutching her phone like a lifeline, she moved cautiously through the dimly lit corridor, the floorboards groaning beneath her weight. The air was heavy with an otherworldly tension, and Mia felt as if unseen eyes were watching her every move. As she approached the staircase, a shadow detached itself from the darkness and slinked along the wall. Mia's heart raced as she glimpsed a silhouette, a figure that seemed to defy the laws of reality. Panic surged through her veins, and she stumbled backward, her phone slipping from her grasp and clattering onto the floor. In the ensuing darkness, Mia felt a presence closing in, an ethereal touch that grazed the nape of her neck. Whispers filled the air, indistinct words that echoed with an otherworldly resonance. The temperature plummeted, and Mia's breath materialized in the frigid air. She was no longer alone. With trepidation, she forced herself to ascend the staircase, each step an echo in the silent house. The air grew thick with an unseen presence, and Mia found herself standing outside her parents' room. The door stood ajar, inviting her into the heart of the spectral abyss. As Mia pushed the door open, the room revealed itself in the dim light. The furniture seemed to have aged decades, and an antique mirror reflected a distorted version of the room. Mia's eyes widened as she saw her own reflection, but something was amiss. The mirror held a fleeting image of a ghastly figure standing behind her. A blood-curdling scream tore through the house, and Mia recoiled in terror. The figure in the mirror reached out, its shadowy fingers grazing her shoulder. Mia stumbled backward, desperate to escape the haunted room. The air pulsated with malevolence, and the whispers grew into anguished wails that reverberated through the walls. In a blind panic, Mia fled down the staircase, the relentless footsteps echoing behind her. She burst out into the cold night, gasping for breath, her eyes wide with terror. The old Victorian house loomed behind her, its windows like empty eyes that had witnessed unspeakable horrors. Mia never returned to that house, haunted by the spectral encounter that had forever changed her. The whispers lingered in the recesses of her mind, a chilling reminder that in the stillness of the night, unseen entities may roam the halls of our reality, waiting for the solitary to beckon them into the realm of the living.